Hello and welcome to the Hockey Hub Podcast, Episode 6. Glad you could join us, Adam Pellerin, alongside Andy Brickley. We will talk all things Bruins, of course, coming home from their trip out west. We'll also have Natalie Noury, who covers Hockey East for us. She joins the show. She'll have an interview with UNH women's hockey head coach Hilary Witt, and we'll talk a little UNH with Andy Brickley as well. He knows a thing or two about the campus in Durham. Brick, how are you?
I'm well, Adam. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, and I think the question I have for you right off the bat is, how are the Bruins coming home from that West Coast trip, or not West Coast, trip out west, 1-1-1 the record, coming off a loss to the Nashville Predators. You know, you talked to head coach Jim Montgomery, after each of those games, not including the national game in Colorado, the game they won, but the last two games, you travel with the team back home. What's the vibe of the team right now?
Underperforming, I think, would be the general theme. The expectations for this team were pretty high. Look, we've only played less than 10% of the season, so it is a small sample set, but it's the optics that I think are bothering everybody right now, because there's been some winnable games that they've let get away because they haven't had their A game themselves. And, you're looking for that growth. You're looking for that continuity in their game where they're coming together. They're understanding how they need to play as a group in order to make sure they have 2 points in their pocket most nights. And I think this road trip to Colorado, to Salt Lake, to Nashville was indicative of the first 3-4 games that they played this year, where some good, some bad. And when you're some good, some bad, what are you? You're a 500 team. They were 1-1-1 on the trip, and they're a 500 team as they get ready to play the Stars with the next game, coming back home for a little mini 3-game homestand. So that being said, how about those optics? It's concerning to me, Adam, only because my expectations for certain individuals that had really good years last year, they are not being as impactful as they can be. And I'm not necessarily saying, I need production and I need goals, I need assists. No, I just need better overall play from certain guys. And they're man enough, and hockey players are thick-skinned enough, and they're willing to admit and look in the mirror and say, I can be better, I got to be better, I got to be better within the team system, and I got to be better individually. And I think that's what a number of the players are dealing with right now. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, it's jarring, right? Because the last couple of years, they got off to a great start out of the gate. This year, 3-3-1. You got some new faces, some high expectations attached to some of the new faces as well. And you're coming off a loss to the Predators where you got shut out. And that was after Jim Montgomery had shuffled the lines again to try and get something going with this team. And they tried to generate opportunities in that game against the Predators. They weren't able to finish. And after that game, Charlie Coyle talked about what the team needed to do to generate opportunities and find the back of the net.
You got to find ways to get to the net more. It's usually a kind of a simple fix. You look at some video. Maybe we're not getting to the inside as much as we need to. Sometimes you got to claw your way to get those goals. Second, third, fourth efforts, rebounds. That starts going to the net. Simplifying things and putting yourself in positions to get shots, receive passes, go to the net, get rebounds. It's usually just got to simplify things. Sometimes you can overthink it. Who knows we're doing that right now? Look at some video and we'll just get better from it.
And there's so many new faces on this team. Is it too early to make any judgments? It's only 7 games in. Guys haven't, been in this system too long.
Yeah, I mean we're still building, right? Like you don't stop building till the season's done. We have a lot of new faces, and sometimes it takes a little bit to get acclimated, and where you're not thinking at all, you're just playing hockey, which is, when you're playing your best. You're not overthinking it. Where should I be? What's our system? So that's going to come better and better as we get more reps in practice, as we play more games. But that should sharpen up as we keep going forward.
So, Brick, Charlie Coyle echoing some of what you already said. I want to get your thoughts specifically about the game against the Predators. We'll get into the lines coming up a little bit later, but in terms of, some of the opportunities they created, it seemed like the beginning of the second period, the beginning of the third period, especially that play off the face-off in the third period, David Pastrnak had an opportunity, and I think you had mentioned it during the broadcast that, if you told me that David Pastrnak had 2 breakaway opportunities and the Bruins were getting shut out, you wouldn't believe it, but that was the case.
Yeah, it really wasn't a 4-0 game, Adam. When you watched it and you analyzed it by the end of the night, did the Bruins deserve to win? No, you don't. You don't win in this league if you don't score goals. But if they do bury some of their high danger chances, the quality scoring chances that they did have, and they had guys that can score goals in this league, proven goal scorers that weren't finishing, and a goal, a timing goal, it changes it changes everything, the whole makeup of the game, and what's happening at ice level, and it puts a little doubt in a team that had doubt coming in because they were 0-5. And because you don't score when you get those great opportunities and timely opportunities to answer goals that were scored against you, you're never going to win hockey games like that. But let's take it back, though, Adam, to Colorado. All right, the first game of the trip. First two periods, the Bruins were excellent. That's the hockey you think the Bruins should play on a much more consistent basis. It was led by the fourth line. They established offensive zone time. They transferred the puck side to side. They used the low-high game. All five guys involved. They simplified, got pucks in the nets, bodies in the net. That's exactly what Charlie Coyle is talking about. That's the offensive end. I'm not overly concerned with their ability to create offense in the offensive zone. There's enough creativity, there's enough talent, there's enough diversity in terms of different kinds of players that once you figure out who plays with who best, I think they'll score plenty of goals. It's the other end of the ice that's concerning to me, Adam. In order to play in the offensive zone, you got to come out of your own end. You got to come out clean. You got to have a clean exits. You got to have good positioning. We talked about this in the pregame show last night, Judd and I was saying that's the end of the ice that needs to be cleaned up. It's always been a strength of the Boston Bruins, and I expect this team to be in that category, before too long. That means the center play has to get better, the defense decision-making has to get better, the wingers got to do it better. Everybody's got to be involved. Defending when you don't have the puck in your own zone, that's one thing. I'm talking about when you have an opportunity to make a play in order to get out of your own zone with some speed and some pace. They're playing slow right now. And why do you play slow? Because you don't have the puck as much. If you don't have the puck as much, you can't play fast, and you're defending and you're chasing, and you end up chasing the scoreboard. And that's not a winning formula. So move on to the game in Salt Lake. What a winnable game that was. You have a 1-0 lead, and you don't even have your A game. You got a 1-0 lead. That's not a great hockey team. I think they'll be playing meaningful games late in the year because they have some nice young talent, and it's a new environment, and everybody's finally on solid footing in terms of knowing that their paychecks are coming and that they're going to be there, and ownership is solid. So I think they'll be okay. But that was such a winnable game. The Bruins are a better team. You have a 1-0 lead. You get a couple power plays. You don't extend the lead, and you just get that bad feeling like this team's just hanging around. Now it's not going to end well, and it didn't end well for the Bruins. A winnable game that you should have won. Now you come away, you're 1-0-1 on the trip, and you're kind of rationalizing as a team, like, okay, we'll be fine in Nashville. We have time off. It's a 7-game trip with 3 games, pretty spaced out, and then you lose 4-0 to a team that was hungrier than you, plain and simple. Was the work ethic there? Yeah, I think Jim Montgomery liked the work ethic. He thought that was some growth in his team game after the loss to Nashville, but it's that defensive zone and how they play with the puck when they have it in the defensive zone that's going to turn this thing in their favor.
That's what I think was so disappointing right after watching that Colorado game. You thought that they were building and they were going to get to the point where, right? And so, yeah, they gave up the 3 power play goals, but, to your point,
pretty scary talent they can roll out there, that Colorado power
yeah,
play.
Right.
I thought they played. Yeah, and not to be too negative, just matter of fact, I thought they got a little too conservative in that third period. They kind of hang on, and Korpisalo, every save mattered in that third period to make sure you secured the 2 points, and finally they get the empty netter, which was nice. But I love the way they played in the first 2 periods. They got their own zone clean. They didn't allow Colorado a lot of offensive time, which is what you got to do against teams that can score goals with the talent that they have on their high-end players. And they spent a lot of time in the offensive zone, and their puck retrieval was excellent. And that's the way they want to play night in and night out. And we've yet to see it on a consistent basis, and that's what they're trying to build.
And Brick, I want to ask you a question about the trip itself in terms of the amount of games and the number of days that you're out on the road. Having that much time off in between games, does that hurt you?
I don't know the answer to that, Adam. I know as a player, earlier in the year, I like to be on the ice every day, personally. You give me my days off later in the year when I probably needed it. But earlier in the year, when I'm still trying to find my game, fine-tune my game, handle the puck, get a lot of touches in practice, I wanted to be on the ice every day. Now, the way I understand it, because of the way the trip was set up and the off days that were scheduled during the 7-game trip when you're only playing 3 games, I thought was a little strange, but I was informed or educated that a lot of what the fitness guys do will dictate when they think rest is necessary. And that's all new to me. Educate me on that stuff because, hey,
we used to have science side of it, right? You're talking about the sports
exactly,
science? Yeah.
Exactly. And Adam, when I was playing, we did double sessions in training camp. That's unheard of, So lots for me to learn on that aspect of the game. So I defer to the pros, the experts, the specialists when it comes to rest versus work ratio, even if it's at the beginning of the year. But it was kind of a disjointed camp, wasn't it? You had some key injuries. Yeah. You probably played one too many exhibition games. The travel was funny. And I don't think it really lent itself to the Bruins being in the best they could be on opening night against Florida. But they are a 500 team. I'll take it. I think we'll all take it. But again, we open this conversation about the optics of what we are watching, both individually with certain players and collectively as a team. They're nowhere near where they can be and where they're going. We just want it to accelerate.
Yeah, the sports science aspect of it, it's interesting, right? Because you're talking about, sort of the practice schedule and all those things. But that also dictates, when they leave cities, right?
Yeah,
right.
If
they decide to leave the city that night or sleep over the next day, it's all, based on whatever the sports science says is the right thing to do. But getting back to, what's happening on the ice with the Bruins, Jim Montgomery mixing up the lines, keeping the fourth line intact, and you understand why. But just to refresh people's memory, Elias Lindholm centering a line with Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak. And then you had Charlie Coyle centering a line with Max Jones, who only played his 3rd game of the year, by the way, in Nashville, and Trent Frederick playing on his offside. And then Matt Potter centering a line with Pavel Zacha on his left. And then you had Morgan Geekie on the right side. What did you think of the lines? Well, hold on. I'll ask a 2-part question. What did you think of the lines before the game and then after what you saw in Nashville? Obviously getting shut out, but did you see anything that might indicate that might be a good combination moving forward?
I saw some signs of certain things that I liked by mixing the forward line combinations. I still want Zach in my top 6. I understand what Jim Montgomery was doing. He's trying to figure out where a guy like Potter best fits, if he's going to be in the lineup, if he's going to be an impactful player at this point in his young career. Is he a good enough skater to play in the NHL and be in the top 9 and play on a second power play? Not sure if he is just yet. Maybe he benefits from playing tons of hockey down in Providence now that they have that option. So maybe that's in his future. I can't say. I'd like to see him play better. And I'm working backwards here, Adam.
Yeah.
But I want Zach in my top 6. I think he's that good. I wish he had more of a finishing touch because he gets a lot of looks. But I need more from guys that had good years last year, like a Trent Frederick, like a Morgan Geekie, the guys that you mentioned. I think they're really good third-line mismatches for a lot of teams. I think Charlie Coyle, I don't worry about him. I think he's too veteran a guy, and he hasn't played his best hockey yet, but he has to do a lot of good things for this Bruins team in 3 zones as a top 2 center. I think Brad Marchand, despite he had 4 points in his first 6 games, it didn't look like the Brad Marchand we're used to. He gets that shorthanded 2-on-1 last night. That stands out in my mind. I mean, to me, that used to be money for that guy, and it just hasn't been there early in the year for him. Probably has something to do with what happened to him this offseason with all the surgeries that he had and his age, etc. So he's still trying to find his A game. The 2 breakaways by Pastrnak, some good looks that they had on the power play that they couldn't bury. Those are the things that jump out at me. If they had scored 3 goals and lost 4-3, excuse me, I think we'd be talking a little bit different about the Bruins offense and what the line combinations meant. But, you have to keep that fourth line together. They've been so impactful. Even if they're not on the scoreboard, they change momentum of the game. You can trust them. They're out there to start a period. They're out there to reestablish an offensive zone, forecheck, and they do their job. And I love the way they compete and how simple they play. Now you just got to get the other guys to play with that same kind of mentality with their own different set of skills. You don't have to all play like the fourth line, but you have to have that determination, that intensity, and that simplicity of the way you play within the system with the guys you're playing with to be far more effective than you've been. So I understand why they needed a change. I mean, you score one goal in 3+ periods in Salt Lake, and it didn't look great. Yeah, we got to find a way to get certain guys to get going and be more productive and impact the game in ways that they can impact the game that we're not seeing right now. And that's the challenge for the coaching staff. You know, not only are they trying to assimilate new players, sentiment that are not familiar with the Bruins system. I keep talking about that. That's one of my themes. And until they figure that out, the way they play and the way they can dominate the defensive zone and turn defense into offense with quality exits out of the D zone, that's going to be the work in progress. That's where the work has to be done. And I'm telling you, Adam, from experience, the minute you get that part of your game going, everything else just kind of slides into place. All of a sudden now you're coming through the neutral zone with a little bit more pace, a little more speed. You get a little more entry into the offensive zone, even 5-on-5. Everybody gets involved. You find a guy coming late, whether it's the fourth player, which is a trailing defenseman who's going to get an opportunity because you came out of your own zone and he's gapped up nicely in terms of an offensive spacing. All that stuff kind of falls into place. But that's where it starts, back half of the ice.
Yeah, and there's just too much talent on the ice for the Bruins, right? I mean, you think it's going to have to come together at some point offensively, but the buzzword over the last week or so has been the process and improving the process and the habits and details and all those things that you hear the Bruins talk about because things have been inconsistent for them so far. And one of those big things is taking too many penalties, Brick. They've taken 39 minor penalties, which leads the NHL. Nikita Zadorov has taken a minor penalty in each of his first 7 games, and they're coming at inopportune times as well. And one example I'll point to is one that led to a goal, the first goal of the game for the Predators, for Max Jones, who is, again, fighting for ice time, fighting for playing time, right. Commits 2 penalties in the first period, and the second penalty that he commits is in the Bruins' offensive zone, and it leads to a power play goal for the Preds.
Yeah, and I don't envy the coaches that have to deal with this because it's so frustrating, and at times you don't understand it, and you need to be smarter. You need to avoid penalties when you're 200 feet from your own net and there's no danger, and there are certain penalties that you feel good about killing when somebody runs somebody through the boards in the offensive zone and it's a really good hit, but they deem it was a boarding penalty. You feel good about killing those penalties off, but not when you're getting interference or tripping or holding or whatever it might be, and it's a long way from your own net, and you're down a goal, and you start to find some momentum. You get a couple of scoring chances, and then you get one of those kinds of penalties. It's so it's so defeating to you emotionally and mentally, when those things happen. And then if you give up a power play goal on top of that, it really hurts. So, yeah, it's an area of concern, again, with this Bruins team, the far too many minor penalties at the wrong time in the wrong areas of the ice that can be cleaned up with better discipline. Discipline comes in so many different ways, whether it's something as simple as a line change or where you dump the puck in order to continue to make the line change. We've seen the Bruins get caught on some line changes already this year where the guys just not being smart enough with when to go off the ice, taking their eye off where the puck is, and it gets turned around. This game is so fast. Turnarounds are so fast. Quick ups are so fast. You got to make sure those line changes are done at the right time, and it doesn't have to be all 5 at once, obviously. That's another form of discipline that needs to be better with this team. But yeah, the penalties are hurting them right now. I don't know how you handle it, Adam. Do you take away time, ice time? Do you not play guys? I don't know what that solution is. It's tough to legislate as a coaching staff how you handle when a team is taking too many penalties. There used to be a fine system back in the day. I don't even know if you're allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah, no more double sessions and no more fine system when it comes to taking penalties.
No more kangaroo court, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, this PC world that we live in. I don't know what's good or what's not good. But I don't mean to make light of it because it's hurt the Bruins. Sure. It's hurt momentum in games, and that's been a problem. But the good news is these are all areas that can be fixed. I would like to see a guy like Charlie McAvoy take over certain parts of the game when the game's in the balance. I think he's that talented. He's that good. He has that much command of the game and on what he's doing. And I'd like to see it, sooner rather than later, because I know it's coming, and I would have liked to seen it on this trip because, like I said, I thought all 3 games were winnable. And I think he's been a little too quiet in terms of taking the game over. And that's a learned skill, and some guys never learn it despite how good they are. But I think Charlie's on the right track, and he has to get that into his game because he can be so dynamic and so and so good on the back end, and just kind of take over the game with high percentage plays, but plays that really hurt the opponent because you're making the right play at the right time and you're in the middle of it. And that's what he likes. He likes to be in the middle of everything that's important, everything that's critical, everything that, determines whether you win or lose. But again, he's just another guy in a collection of guys, for me, that just haven't been what I expect them to be at some point this year. I'd like it to be today. It hasn't been there. I hope I see more and more signs of all of these players that I'm talking about improve their game individually, which will help this Bruins team come together much more, consistently as a group of 20 players.
Yeah, you want to see the big guys step up. No question about that. You can talk about all the supporting players, and you can talk about what can Tyler Johnson bring if the Bruins end up signing him. But at the end of the day, you need your captain, you need your leaders to step up, and that's what we're looking for on the Bruins homestand, which is coming up, Brick. You got 3 games.
Yep.
The Stars, the Maple Leafs, and the Flyers all come to TD Garden, a couple of tough opponents in there, divisional opponent in there as well, in the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's start with the Dallas Stars, a team that went to the West Final last year, pushed the Oilers to 6 games. They come into this year. They extend their goaltender. That contract kind of looked familiar, too. 8-66. Where have I seen that one before?
Who's setting the market? Who's setting the market?
Yeah, exactly. So Jeremy Swayman and Jake Ottinger, a couple of Hockey East alums, getting big deals. But, this is a very good Stars team, Brick. They pride themselves, on playing good defense, 3rd in the league in goals allowed. So this is going to be a tough test for the Bruins coming up.
Yeah, and they got I think most people in the business, certainly from the side of the business that we're in, when you look at teams and you analyze teams, a lot of people feel that this might be the most complete team in the NHL, top to bottom. And I wouldn't disagree with that. I think they're very good. I think they're deep. You can get a lot of goals from a lot of different areas. They're a good skating team. They can play with pace. They can play with a little nasty. They got the good goalie, as you mentioned. They're coming off a loss to Buffalo, so they're going to be hungry. We saw what losing can do to other teams. I loved going into Colorado and beating them, even though they were off to a horrendous start. So that was good for Boston. I wish they could have done the same with Nashville, a team that was 0-5. It would have been nice to put some doubt in their game if they could have buried some of their chances. So I expect Dallas to come in. I expect them to have their A game. I think they're a pretty complete team. The Bruins are going to have to really step up their game, make improvements, believe in one another, sacrifice, whatever it takes to win a hockey game, and make sure that a 1-1-1 trip, this past week is unacceptable, given the way they played, particularly in games 2 and 3 on that road trip. So looking for the Bruins to improve in every aspect of the game, every area of the game. If Swayman's in goal, I have no concerns about him. I think he'll be ready. He competes. That's one question mark I do not have, is if he's in goal. That being said, you have to expect Dallas to come in with, determination, a little ornery, a little angry that they lost. They think they're an elite team in the league. They don't like going into Buffalo and losing. And, they're looking at their own road trip and what their goals are. So, expect their best and prepare for that best, and that's my anticipation.
Yeah, the Bruins and Stars have played some pretty good games over the last few years. The Bruins have come out on top 7 of the last 8. They've won 5 straight at home, but last year Bruins had a shootout win. They had a 1-goal win in Dallas last year. So hopefully we have some entertaining hockey and a Bruins win as well.
Let's go all the way back to 2011 if you want to talk Dallas.
Yeah.
Do you remember that game? Do you remember?
Yes, of course I do. Yes.
The fights in the first few seconds. Yeah. I think Razor was in nets for Dallas that night.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
for a little while.
Yeah, we got the all-cast coming up, right? So we'll have to, maybe that'll come up in conversation.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what's ahead for the Bruins, the Stars, the Maple Leafs, and the Flyers on this homestand. Brick, we also have a Hockey East action this weekend, and, love college hockey season. You know a thing or two about that. UNH women's hockey team is playing this weekend on Nesson. You played for the UNH men's hockey team back in the day. What a career you had there, and making it all the way to they called it the Final Four back then. It was before Hockey East existed, you in the ECAC. Talk about your time at UNH. Why did you choose UNH? And I know you were a two-sport athlete as well. You played baseball.
Yeah, great memories. 3 great years at UNH. It's a long story to tell you exactly how I ended up at UNH, but it was all about trying to be a Division I hockey player. I applied to a lot of, smaller schools for academic reasons, the Middleburys, the Trinitys, the Williamses, schools like that. And Harvard was on that list. I got waiting list at Harvard, but I was denied entry at Harvard because they told me I wasn't good enough to play D1. And the only other D1 school I applied to was UNH, and UNH was going to be my backup school, State University. I should be able to get in there. And when I came home from Harvard, I said to my father, I want to go to UNH. I'd never seen the school, never visited, never been there. And my father said, go see if you can play Division I. So that's basically how I ended up at the University of New Hampshire. And it started off a little slow. I was playing fifth line, not dressing. Didn't play my freshman year until about halfway through December. But then when I got my opportunity, things started to fall my way. But I will tell you this, I was a rink rat. I hung around the rink all the time whenever I wasn't in class. Which might have been 24/7. I was at the rink, and I got to tell you, I got to squeeze this in there because we had a tremendous women's program at UNH at that time. One of the first powerhouses really for women's hockey. And, they were on the ice right after us. We practiced 4 to 6 every day. They came on at 6, and they were out there till 7:30. And I would stick around and watch them, practice. And it was quite a program back then. So, I had an affinity for what all UNH hockey was about, whether it was the men or the women. And going back to our program, they had won hockey, the ECAC, the year before I got there, Adam. And they had about 10 seniors. So that was a big break for anybody that was trying to make the team as a walk-on like myself, because there was turnover, there was opportunity, there were openings, and we weren't playing very well early in the year, and we weren't winning, and our record was terrible, which made opportunities for players like me that were on borderline, on the edge of can you play, can you not play, can you play D1, are you a good enough skater? All that stuff was happening at that time, and fortunately for me, the baseball kept me sane because the baseball was going great. I was having a great time playing baseball and doing well and feeling good that I made a good decision to go to UNH because I could play both sports when the hockey wasn't going my way early on. But things turned around and the program got better. We got really good by the time my junior year came around, and Northeastern was very good. That whole decade of the 80s, Northeastern had quite a program, and that was our biggest rival, if you can believe it, in the ECAC. It was us or them that was going to win the East. Both of us went to the Final Four, and both of us lost. It was an all-West final. It was North Dakota and Wisconsin. But it was a great year, a great experience. I love UNH. I get up there as often as I can. And I remember going up when they built the Whittemore. The new
the Witt.
Right. And I met my wife up at UNH. You guys know Diane. And
yeah, sure.
And Jenna was just my oldest daughter was just a little girl at the time, and we were walking around, and her mother was saying, "See, there's Brick. There's your dad right there. He's an All-American. I'm on the All-American wall up there." And her reaction was, "Dad." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Bad hair day."
Love the reaction from kids. They don't care about the accolades. They're just
exactly
the first thing they notice. What's going on with your hair?
I was like, come on, that's 1981. That's the way we wore our hair back then,
Oh, man, that's so funny. Well, 68 goals, 69 assists, 137 points in just 93 games, and a lot of success at UNH. So I always like taking the trip down memory lane. We did that with Utah last week, and get to know Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Well, for right now, we're going to say goodbye to you. Thanks for coming on again to the Hockey Hub. We'll see you next week. We're going to switch gears now and talk some Hockey East. The men's hockey program has had a lot of success over the years, as we were talking about. Women's hockey program as well. And our own Natalie Noury was able to catch up with UNH women's hockey head coach Hilary Witt.
All right, Hilary Witt, head coach from the University of New Hampshire. Coach, it's always great to see you, to talk to you, to work with you. Hockey's in full swing. The women started up a couple weeks ago, but you're already 3-1-1 at home, 10 new faces on the roster. I know you're already talking about your team being gritty this year, but what do you like about the group of ladies that you have?
I think there's just an excitement to build off of last year. And, with so many new players and graduating so many experienced players, it's obviously a little bit of a transition for us. But just like our athleticism, I like our hockey IQ. And, overall, just like what we returned from last year's team, we have really strong goaltending. We returned all of our top scorers. And, I think, the new players are really starting to figure it out and understand how we want to play. So it's been a grind, but also exciting so far.
Yeah, to talk about the goaltending a little bit. It's a young group, but not inexperienced. Sedona Blair returns. Nomi Martinez had seen some game action as well. How has goaltending kind of grown for your program this year?
Yeah, I mean, Sedona had a phenomenal season last year as a freshman, and we relied on her every single game. It's not ideal to do that, to put all that on a kid, never mind a freshman, but she just came in and she took the net, and she gave us a chance to win every game we played. And because of that, Nomi didn't really get much time last year, and it was a goal of ours going into the season to get her some experience and get her in there, and so far she's done a great job. She worked really, really hard last season, practiced hard, got better every single day. So she gives us much needed depth in the net. So we have three goalies who can go out there and win hockey games for us, and Sedona leads the way for us, of course.
That's awesome. Great to see her back. Working out, I guess, towards the blue line. I know last year, blocking shots was a big thing for your team. You had Ray Bratton, Charlie Kettle. I think Ray Bratton had 91 blocks last year. Charlie Kettle, Kyla Bent, both with over 60. Have you seen anyone kind of emerge that might look like they are ready to step up to the occasion in the physicality sense back there?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we talk about a lot. We did graduate a lot of physical, tough, experienced defensemen from last year's team. We knew that was going to be a challenge for us this year to get this new group on the same page and to play the way we want them to play. So, the one player that really sticks out that's playing physical and has really stepped in is Maddie Crowley Cahill. She's got experience in Hockey East. She's tough, she's big, she's strong. So she's really helped us in that category. But, also brought in Andy Calderon. She played at BU. So again, also experienced in the league with a lot of, a lot of touches on the puck in this conference, and a lot of physical play as well. She's a little bit different player. She's a great skater. She moves her feet. She separates players from the puck very well between the body and the hands. So she's really stepped up and helped us a lot as well. So those two newcomers with experience has made the transition a bit easier with so many younger players. And we returned Marina Alvarez and Sadie Makokis, who also played a big role for us last year. Maybe got overshadowed a bit by the experienced players we had on the blue line, but we expected them to come in and play a big role as well. So we're still a work in progress, of course, but I like the way we're trending.
You talked about some of the transfers, some of the returners too. And when the word physical comes to mind, I like to think of Siobhan Truder. She's a lot of fun to watch. But in terms of returning, you also have been able to return 4 of the top point scorers from last year, 4 of the top goal scorers as well. But you've also added some depth already, 10 different goal scorers altogether throughout the start of the season. What do you like about this forward group? What is going to allow them to be a strength of the team?
Yeah, I mean, our returners have to get going. We need them to score goals if we're gonna, match and exceed the success we had last year, and they will for sure. They have experience, they know how to play, and sometimes it just takes a couple of games to really get going, and we're gonna need them, and they're gonna step up. But what I really like what's happening is that when they're not scoring, you need secondary scoring, and to have these kids step in. Julia Cabral got her first goal Friday night. Courtney Lilly got her first goal on Saturday, and those were huge goals in order for us to go 2-0 on the weekend. And so, when the kids that are going to score and have historically scored, aren't doing it quite yet, to have those other kids step up and help you win games, just shows that you have some depth, and we're going to need that throughout the season. But I'm not worried about our returners who did score a lot for us in the past. They're going to get going and they're going to put up a lot of points. So excited for them as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned the weekend, a sweep over Union, and that kind of closes out the out-of-conference play at the start of the season here, but you've got Hockey East for the next couple weekends coming up. How does the sweep and the early parts of the season here kind of feed into the chemistry, the confidence that the team's been able to develop already?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a confidence builder. You got to collect some W's to really feel confident in what you're doing. And going into a huge weekend this weekend, with Vermont is, it's a big deal. Like they're a good team. Everybody in Hockey East is a good team, and I think that we've built some confidence. And we obviously did a good job at the defensive end of the building, and now we got to start to put more pucks in the net.
Special game coming up to October 26th for your team. It's an event that your team is passionate about as well. It's the Stick It to Stigma game. How important is it for your team to be passionate about games like this and highlighting the importance of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's always, it's always important to play for causes, but this particular cause is so common in life and always has been, but it's gotten so much more attention. And I think for elite athletes, if you look at all these Olympians, these very successful people, and they're always talking about how they struggled at times with anxiety or mental health, and I think a lot of successful people do that because they put such high pressure on themselves, and they feel like they should be performing at a high level all the time, and with that comes a lot of work mentally. And I think for college kids today, this is a cause that's not only great for everybody, it's something that is a major concern for college students, never mind college athletes. And the pressures, the anxiety, the social media, all the attention on people today, and the goal to always be perfect at everything is, which we all know is not. It's not a goal that anybody's going to achieve. No one's ever going to be perfect, right? But when you're trying to be a great elite athlete, you're trying to be perfect all the time. Mental health becomes a major pressure process for you, and we need these kids to recognize that we're all here for them. And I think when you have games like this and you show people in the world that there should not be a stigma to mental health, there should not be this embarrassment around this cause, because everybody suffers from it. Everybody needs the help sometimes, and I think for our kids, they take a lot of pride in playing this game and bringing a lot of attention to this cause.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Well, it's wonderful to see what the Wildcats are doing. I look forward to seeing what they will accomplish this year. And always great to speak with you again, Coach. Thanks for coming on with us today. And good luck in the next series.
Thanks, Natalie. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
And look at that. Natalie Noury is everywhere. Look at you.
I know. My background is always changing. I'm good. How are you? Just getting ready for this weekend in Hockey East and talking a little bit of UNH in the process. So it's been good.
Yeah, I want to get into some questions about the UNH women's hockey team. But I also want to talk to you about the interview you just had with Coach Witt. What was your big takeaway from your conversation with her?
You know what? My conversations with Coach Witt are always a lot of fun. I like speaking with her. I went to school at UNH from 2017 to 2021. So I got to know her really well, not only as a coach, but a person, just seeing her around the rink all the time. But I think, you know what, they've had some really strong years, but I'm really excited for this year in particular. And I think you can see my major takeaway from the conversation with her is just how encouraged she is. Although it is kind of a transitional year, there is a lot of things to look forward to. And I think, she seems like she's ready to go. It's just that production and goal scoring that's going to help them kind of get past this initial threshold here. But yeah, you can see she likes what she has. She's excited about this team. I think a lot of the people she brought in are going to be promising. But yeah, it's just about scoring goals right now, Adam. We know all about that.
Yeah, no question about that. The Bruins could use some offensive production as well. I just talked to Brick about that. Hopefully they can find it on the homestand. So it's early in the season for everybody. But UNH off to a good start coming off, as you're talking about the sweep of Union and, a couple of players you mentioned, Maddie Crowley-Cahill, Defender of the Week, Sedona Blair, the goaltender of the week, stopping 36 to 37 shots. Obviously a strength of their team. But if you were to look at areas of improvement moving forward, the power play is something that probably jumps off the page at you. 1 for 11 through the 6 games, first 6 games of the year. How can they get that going for them?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think it's a lack of chances, Adam. I was watching some film, just kind of trying to digest, what's going on with this power play. Why have they only found, the back of the net one time? And I don't think it's a lack of chances, because you look at who they have returned. They returned not only like the top point scorers, the top goal scorers, but they've also returned their top power play goal scorers. You had Sydney Leonard, Kira Judikis, Shea Barrier, Siobhan Truder even finding the back of the net. I think Coach Witt has the right idea with the players she has out there. I think it's just, and this is going to be so simple and cliche, but getting pucks to the net. And you look at the way that they have played, especially last weekend, they might have been caught around the perimeter a little too much, but I think you look at that one power play goal that has been scored so far this season, it was because they got the puck to the net. It was Marina Alvarez who shot the puck, and then 3 Wildcat players were right there in the crease, ready to pounce on it when the rebound was there. And that makes it hard for the PK to defend. When those rebounds are there, things get chaotic. Things get kind of crazy around the net. So I think the Wildcats kind of need to just keep doing that. They've got the power plays, they're shooting the puck on the net, but they just need to be there to get the puck, past the goaltender. And I think that's the hardest part, of course. But yeah, it's not a lack of chances, I don't think. I think it's just once they get it going a little more, they will find their system a little better. They haven't been caught around the perimeter too much, but again, it's just kind of like getting the puck on net and being there to crash the rebound. What's funny about Coach Witt is she shows her players goals scored by Connor McDavid. And she said some of them are highlight material, but the majority of them are just by being there, being gritty, and just getting the rebounds. A puck could go in off a skate, off your butt, whatever. She said just be there for the pretty goals, but also be there for the goals that you just kind of have to get in there physically. But yeah, I think the power play, I'd like to see that get going, but I think it's just the recipe there is just getting pucks on net and being there to crash it in.
Connor McDavid, not a bad example to use when you're talking about success on the power play. And yeah, sometimes, simple is better, right? And if you're creating opportunities on the power play, the goals will come. And you talked about cliche. Well, that's definitely cliche as well. In terms of the special teams on the other side, they've been excellent, perfect so far this year, 14 of 14 on the penalty kill. So special teams on the power play side, a work in progress, but the PK seems to be midseason form right now.
Yeah, the PK, I think, it's kind of carried over to be a strength of this team. Last year, they had Ray Breton, which I mentioned in the interview, and she was an animal out there. She would block shots, 91 last year, and it was just always fun to watch her because she was out there and unafraid to get in the way of the puck. But what's wonderful about this team is they return so many players with this kind of experience being physical on the back end, playing around players like Ray Breton, Charlie Coyle. So yeah, I mean, they have strong goaltending in Sedona Blair, and she is being incredible this year. Like last year, I think she was Hockey East goaltender of the week this week. So she's already making a name for herself again. So you start with Sedona Blair back in net, and then you have all this experience on the PK, and I think that's what's just kind of feeding into the success there. Someone Coach Witt mentioned as being one of her more skilled offensive penalty killers was Brooke Hammer. She said she does a really nice job at reading and reacting, and what they do on their penalty kill, is they just, they stay structured, but they allow their players time to read and then make decisions quickly and then react on it. And she thinks Brooke Hammer is one of those players. But again, you get Kira Judikis, Shea Barrier, all situations players. Siobhan Truder, she's aggressive. So I think they just have a lot of experience and good goaltending, and I think that's what helps them be so strong in that situation.
So the penalty kill is very successful so far for UNH, and you mentioned a number of players, and we heard you talking about some of those players in the interview with Coach Witt. But if we could circle back to that, and you mentioned Sedona Blair, and we mentioned Maddie Crowley Cahill as being a couple of players, and obviously winning the weekly awards. If we could circle back to some of the other players that fans should be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Coach Witt said it right. Once the vets start going again, you will see, their names pop up quite a bit. And again, that I think Kira Judikis is one of them. She was the leading goal scorer last year, 15. She hasn't scored a goal yet this year, but once that starts going in for her, I think, look to her line, because it's Kira Judikis, Shea Barrier, and I think they put Allison Hush on that first line too. And she's the one who scored that only power play goal of the year so far. I think the three of them, once they kind of find a little bit of chemistry, once those goals are scored, you can look to those three for being part of the reason why. So I think Allison Hush, she's coming in already playing with a lot more confidence. I think she only had 8 shots on goal last season. She's got 20 now, already a goal as well this season. So just that confidence coming in with a little more maturity. I want to see Hush do some big things this year. And I think if they keep those three together, she could find that success. I really like Marina Alvarez on defense. She's one of the only veteran returners for the Wildcats. I like her because she's very offensive minded for a defensive player. She joins the rush. She creates for her team. That power play goal went in because she shot the puck on the net. I think she just really does a nice job setting up her team and kind of adding grit to the game. Not to mention she's just a ton of fun. So I like watching her. And then as for like a couple of freshmen, I think Addie Finn is someone that I'm just excited to see play. She's listed not only as a defenseman, but also a forward. So she can defend the game, but she can also score goals, and she has done that already. And they've got her with Maddie Crowley-Cahill. So a lot of experience there. I think those two will be good together. But yeah, Andy Calderoni too. I think she's fun. She like 119 games played, I think. She was with BU last season. Her and Maddie Crowley-Cahill, they have a lot of experience in big games, bean pots, that kind of stuff. So bringing them into this Wildcat group, it kind of establishes more of a competitive nature, I think, because they know about those big games. But yeah, and you got to mention Sarah Boucher, the Mercyhurst transfer too. I think, once she gets going, she's very creative, and she just sets her team up nicely along with Brooke Hammer. So I would say I'm forgetting a bunch, but I would say those are going to be some key players for the Wildcats.
Yeah, and it seems like a recurring theme in some of your answers is the experience, right? Whether they're transfers or they've been on campus at UNH, that can go a long way for a team, especially, when you start playing in some of these conference games, you get closer to tournament time, relying on your leadership. Mm-hmm. I mean, that can be huge for the Wildcats moving forward. In terms of the matchup this weekend against Vermont, and, you talked about it in the interview, you're getting past the non-conference schedule in the first part of the season for UNH, now starting to get into some of the conference games. And this one will be against Vermont. You got 2 this weekend at the Witt. What are we looking at?
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun, Adam, because both teams are coming in 0-2 in conference play. So they're hungry to get started, and they're hungry to get that first win. And we know how important those points in hockey are in general, Hockey East more specifically. What's unique about this matchup, in my opinion, is Kyla Bent was one of the top producing defensemen for the Wildcats last year. She's now with the Catamounts, so she'll be playing out on the ice with UVM in the Whittemore Center. And I think she's already the second most points on the team for the Catamounts too. So she's stepped up. She's making a name for herself there, and the Wildcats are going to see her in the green this weekend instead of the blue and white. So that'll be interesting. I think another thing that helps them out is Natalie Malinkova is no longer with UVM. She's with Minnesota, and I think she scored 4 of the goals against the Wildcats in last season's series, where they dropped both games to the Catamounts. So Natalie Malinkova was she was a threat for the Catamounts against the Wildcats, but she's moved on, and I think the Catamounts are trying to find a new identity in their goal scoring and their production. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to kind of see, old teammates in Kyla Bent, how the Wildcats are able to capitalize on the momentum they built last weekend. But, the Catamounts haven't had much success either. I think they're still looking for their first win. So I think it's going to be an aggressive game, but I think it's also going to be a little bit of finding their identity and finding line combinations that work and just continuing to build from defense out. So, should be a good game. I know the Stick It to Stigma game is Saturday for the Wildcats, and they care a lot about that. Nice to see the support there. But, should be a good game, and I'm excited to watch it on Essen.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the atmosphere been like early on this season at the Witt? So you're a proud UNH alum. I know you're going to say it's outstanding, but has it been good so far?
Yeah, you know what? It's been good. I think it can be better. It's that weird overlap because football is still going on, and we just had homecoming on campus.
Yep.
So of course everybody's going to the football games, but they got to get over to the Witt too, especially for the women, because they're doing a really great job there. Yeah, it's funny because I just heard Brick talking about the pictures in the hallway. I first time I went there, I was like, oh, there's Andy Brickley. I didn't think he had a bad hair day, but I don't know. I wasn't born in 1981. But yeah, it's been good. I think once we get into conference play, the student section at the Whittemore Center is really going to start showing up and being there for the team. They still throw the catfish out, I think, for every first home goal scored. So, they keep the tradition alive. They keep the students engaged. And I think it's still early, but conference play will really spark the atmosphere that they are so used to there. But yeah, it's a great place.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that you've called out Wildcat Nation. You want them to step it up a little bit in their support for the hockey teams. All right, that's what Natalie Noury has called you out, Wildcat Nation, right here on the Hockey Up podcast. That's awesome. Well, we're looking forward to seeing.
Get out there.
Yeah, right. We're looking forward to seeing UNH and Vermont square off this weekend. The game on Nesson, as you mentioned, Natalie, puck drop at 3:30. Busy day of hockey. Of course, you get the Bruins at night as well, hosting the Toronto Maple Leafs as they continue their homestand. First things first, though, date with the Stars. Thursday night at TD Garden. So that will wrap things up for the Hockey Hub podcast. We thank Andy Brickley, as always, for joining us. Natalie, thanks for being here as well. And we will see you on Tuesday. Judd Surratt will be co-hosting. See you then.